It is really with a profound sense of humility and a deep understanding of the level of responsibility that I stand before you as being the president of CRC. Simple Google search would tell you, and I don't want to hide the fact that you know or may know that I'm a man of faith. And so when I think about all the things that had to transpire in my life, all the things that had to take place politically and socially to allow this day to happen, I am in complete awe of this moment. And hopefully you are not uncomfortable with the president having a vulnerable moment. But in fact, it's hard for me not to have some type of emotional and spiritual feeling looking out of the audience and being able to talk to you as the president of a college campus. Thank you for the opportunity that I have to serve, not to lead necessarily, definitely not to dictate, but the opportunity that I have to be a servant for you. There's an African proverb that's made famous by Hillary Clinton. It said it takes a village to raise a child. How many of you are familiar with that term? But also saying, now I know it takes a team to prepare a president for convocation. And I have a great team, and I kept them working literally up into the last minute. I would get a slide that one week looked great to me. I'm like, yes, we'll go with it. I sleep on it for a couple of days, take a trip, come back and say, I really don't like that much. As I thought I did. Great slide, not their fault, but mine. So I want to thank all of my vice presidents, Whitney, Corey, and Kim, for all of their assistance. I want to thank the research team, Paul, Sabrina, Kathy, are you here? Paul, Sabrina? I really worked them. I mean, I got to buy them something. But I have 2 kids in college, so it won't be expensive. But it's going to be the thought that counts. Thought that counts. We worked all the way to the last minute. And last but not least, I want to thank Christy, Public Information Officer, who I know that I probably worked her nerves a little bit over the last week or so to get ready for this. But we're going to be okay. We'll get over it, right? Shannon mentioned that we have a lot of new faces on campus, and that's a good thing. It's a sign that we're growing, that we're getting some new energy and blood to CRC. So I want to take a moment to introduce some of the new faces we have within our administrative team here, starting with Dr. McDaniel, who started July 9th as our new Vice President of Student Services. Can't believe You're familiar with the next person. He's not new. He was served as a dean with us for several years and a director prior to that. But our new associate vice president is Torrance Todd. Torrance is working on his doctorate degree, so he has a mandatory day at UC Davis. And it's about learning for life, right? So we want to definitely encourage those who want to pursue higher education, allow them the time to do that. We have 2 interim deans that was just announced yesterday or the day before yesterday, so brand new, not brand new to the college, but definitely brand new to their positions. And we have Colette Harrison Matthews, who's taking on business. And Margie Duffy, interim dean of business. know that it's significant for us to do work around student success and equity. And this is why position was such a critical hire. So I would like for you to join me in welcoming to Dale Emeru. Associate Dean of Student Success and Equity. Also, we have a new interim supervisor in counseling. We know the critical role that counseling plays in student success. So it's my privilege to introduce Shelly Massey. Shelly. And last and definitely not least, we have Kurt Sosa coming in, interim supervisor of IT. We talked about that. We know we have what coming up in October. And one of the good things about coming in at the time that I came in as a president is that, you know, if things go wrong or questions, I'm new. I have nothing. I will work on fixing that. You're right, I agree, that's horrible. It's unacceptable, we need to fix it. No, we have a wonderful document. It was a great way for me as a new president to come in at the culmination of the self-study for me to get orientated and to find out what's going on within the institution. And I wanted to take the time not only to let you know or remind you about the accreditation visit, but want to acknowledge all those who put a tremendous amount of energy and effort in producing what I think is a wonderful accreditation document. I want to start with Whitney Yamamura, who is the Vice President of Academic Affairs. Not only want to thank him for the role he played in accreditation, but as you know, Whitney was the interim president for how long, Whitney? One semester. And one semester is a lot to be an interim president. So I want to thank you for your work and effort during that time and the leadership you provide. And Lisa, who was here as manager. Georgine, are you here? Excellent work. Excellent work. I've heard great things about you. It's good to have the opportunity to finally meet you yesterday, to see the person behind the work. We have our two editors, Lisa and Kirsten. Are you here? Wave. And now I'm going to take the remainder of my time to read you while we're involved. But this was important to put up, and I'm glad Whitney suggested it, because it shows the amount of support, effort, the cross-section of voices that it takes to produce an accreditation report. And when site visitors come on campus, one of the things they want to know is to what extent that there was college-wide involvement within the process. And this gives us a quick glance and snapshot to really demonstrate the level of involvement that the college community had in producing this document. So give yourselves a round of applause. Much of the rest of the presentation is going to be centered around, where we're going. How do I see the institution, to take what Shannon said, how we see the institution evolving over the course of the next several years. But the chancellor said this directly, and he stole a little piece of what I'm going to say. In order to know where you're going, you have to know where you are. And we're going to talk a little bit about you have to know where you've been as well. But we're going to start with where we are. So I'm just going to share briefly, and we're going to go over quickly, some data points to just give us a sense of what's shaping our landscape, what is providing context to our thinking, and what's informing us as we move forward as an institution. Right. So we heard the chancellor talk about this idea of providing what? Access to capacity. Often we talk about enrollment, and when we think about enrollment, we equate that to what? Budget, right? That we need enrollment for us to be in a fiscal position to do what it is that we need to do operationally. But I think it's important for us to shape it around not only budget, we know that is a very real implication, but we have to shape it around providing access for students, because we know the transformative power of education. So for every seat that is vacant, we need to imagine that that is a student missing out on what? The opportunity to transform their lives, not only for them, but the people and their family, and then in turn for an entire community. So that's why hitting our targets is significant for me. But we see over the trend, and as we would expect, we're looking at over the last 4 years, we had a stark decline when we was going through budget cuts, attempted to rebound and have grown, but we haven't grown enough. So our target for us is that we need to grow around 2.6%. Looked at the numbers yesterday, Whitney, what we have, about one net down, 1.5. For the last several weeks, we were bringing up the rear, so to speak, in terms of enrollment. That has changed. We're no longer bringing up the rear, but we still have some work to do. So hopefully you will partner with us in making sure that we do everything we can to meet our enrollment targets so we can serve the students that are in most need. Also, one of the things that we're talking about and what you hear a lot on the national landscape as it relates to community college is building, clear and coherent educational and academic pathways. One of the ways in which that's playing out within the state of California is through the ADTs, or the associate degrees of transfer. And CRC should be proud. You've been very active, and we've been very active in that process. We have 21 approved ADT programs. So let's give a round of applause for that. We're required, and our target for the 15-16 academic year is to have 4 additional ADT programs. Again, the benefit of that is not to meet to meet a arbitrary number set by the state. Yeah, that happens, we're influenced, but the real reason we're doing it, the why, as we talked about in the previous presentation with Chancellor King, is to be able to provide what? A clear pathway for the students so they know from the point of entry to the point of exit what it is that they need to do to complete. And so this is why the ADTs are so significant for us. Brief facilities update. I'm going to talk a little bit about the opening of Lightwell, but we know the train is here. We're going to talk a little bit more about that. How many of you had a chance to see the holes that's where's Augustine coined it, the big dig, right? That is going on. That is to do much needed infrastructure work to our HVAC system, which we will appreciate it next summer tremendously, the work that's being done for that. We have the opening of a brand new student access center. I want to give a shout out and big kudos to Chris Thomas for our work on that. When we talk about increasing enrollment, how many of you have sat down with a child or a neighbor to navigate their way through our application and registration process? And we had a little bit of conversation about this yesterday. Is it really easy to do? Very intuitive, user-friendly? Yeah, I figured that would be some of your reaction. This is tough, right? We're doing everything we can to streamline the process. Some things that are out of our control. So that means that many of our students need assistance to be able to navigate the steps it takes to be able to go what I call from off the streets or from our community to find themselves registered in classes. And the Student Access Center is going to create a one-stop service center that when students need help or need to be directed, if they come directly from the community or directly from the streets, as I call it, we have a central place that we can send them, and they will get the support they need. So when they leave there, they're ready for registration. So let's give another round of applause for the heard Chancellor briefly talk about the budget. This provides a little bit more detail, although I'm not going to spend a lot of time on it. The huge takeaway from this is that we are in probably the best budget we've been in a community college in years, right? And coming off of having conversations about classes to cut, it really feels good now for us within a community college to talk about how we can grow and expand. And that's due to having a healthy state economy. So we see the projected state updates where we have significant increases in both unrestricted and restricted budget areas, restricted including our categorical programs. We look at our college operation budget, and we know the factors that influence that is our WISH, our building square footage, and our FTE. And with that, we're looking at a 1.6 total budget in unrestricted funds. When you add that additional $285,000 in lottery money, and then we also again talked about the increases that we're going to have in our categorical money. Looking at the state formula, when we look at what's projected to come to our district, we get around roughly 4% of the state allocation in categorical, CRC 0.8%. So if you want to do quick math, someone could tell us how much money that means that we would get in those categorical programs. But it's going to be significant, and it's going to allow us to continue much of the good work that we already started here at CRC. As I mentioned before, the train is coming. The light rail is going to open the first day of classes. As well, the opening ceremony is also going to take place on the first day of classes. Yay! 10 o'clock. 10 o'clock is going to have, I think, 10 to 11. I'm trying to figure out what time to avoid certain areas of the campus. So it's 10 o'clock. But there's been a lot of conversations about this, and I've been hearing it. And the conversation's been around the idea of safety, and I'm going to talk about that. But the first thing I want to emphasize, and that's why it's the first bullet, is having the train is a real value added to our institution. Transportation is one of the major barriers for students to enroll in higher education, is having reliable and consistent and affordable transportation. So with the train coming, it eliminates one of those barriers to access that we've been talking about. In addition, it's going to connect all Sac City, Folsom, Rancho Cordova Center is all going to be connected along this line, right? So there's tremendous opportunity to open up CRC to a number of students who may not have been exposed to it because of our geographical location in the past. But because we know that there's conversations around the safety, I just want to highlight a couple of things to you to let you know that we are in conversation and really attempting to be proactive. And I see Chris in the back, who's been very helpful in putting this together and making sure that we're going to have a safe campus, even with light rail coming in. There's going to be additional security and support. So there's going to be 3 to 5 guards riding, stationed at the platform each day. So we're getting additional police support coming from RT. There's going to be cameras on the train and on the platforms to monitor activities. So we're going to work closely, high coordination between RT police and our own college safety and police. And then also one of the things that I was getting before the presentation, and we had a presentation from the captain of RT come to our managers meeting, and he's actually going to be doing some days on campus and forums for the faculty, staff, and students to come in to talk about the security measures that's going to happen with light rail. But I was hearing concerns because we are at the end of we have an end of the line station. And people had some concerns and thought that may increase activities because of that. But he said actually when you're end of the line, it's typically less problematic than you're on a continuous line. So that was good news for those of you who had some concerns around that area. At least that alleviated some of the concerns we had for me. When I was talking to Shannon in preparation for the convocation, she said, first of all, she said, don't be boring. Right? I mean, yeah, I think she said it just like that. And she said that people want to know about you. I said, okay. I didn't give a reaction. I said, sounds good. But in my head, I was like, I really don't want to do that. And so I asked, Christy, what's her thoughts and approach? She said, people really want to hear about you. I'm like, wow, I heard it once. I could write it off, heard it twice. It's confirmation. So I said, I guess I have to tell a little bit about myself. I'm really not comfortable doing that, because this is really not about me. It's about all of us. But as I began to think about it, knowing a little bit about me is really significant. Because what I am rooted in and who I am truly is going to directly inform how I behave and move as a president within CRC. So I thought it would be particularly helpful for you to understand a little bit behind the methods of why I would do certain things, so you could get a sense of who I am. First of all, hate to tell you, CRC president is not my most important job. It's not. It's wildly important at the end of the month when bills are due, so I don't want to underplay how significant of a job it is, but it's not my most important job. The most important job is being a husband to Janice, who you met, and being a father to my daughter Nia and my son Kari. And the picture you're seeing there is my son's going away party. So Calvin Monroe, you just heard, is graduated from Morehouse a couple of years ago, and my son now is a first-time freshman at Morehouse College. So that's why we're in the Morehouse. The only time I will wear any other college gear other than CRC. And we have my daughter, who's a junior philosophy major, women's studies minor at So this is what roots me, but where I got my roots from are my parents. My father, unfortunately, transitioned April 9, 2011. He would have loved to physically been here today. It was his dream to see me, first as an attorney when I was little, but once I made the decision to go in education, it became his dream to see me as a college president. And so, but I'm definitely blessed to have my mother here, who you already met today. And they planted some firm values in me that has stuck with me, and again, informs everything I do. And it really starts with this idea of a belief in a higher power, that there's something bigger than me, that centers me and makes me humble. Then education, service, and justice. My parents were born and raised in the South, Columbus, Mississippi, to be exact. And you can imagine during that time the conditions that existed for African Americans in Columbus, Mississippi. But even with that, both of my parents graduated from historical black colleges and were educators in the South. But what brought them and really initiated their decision to move to California, but at that time with their 3 children, because I wasn't born yet, I'm the youngest, was to pursue this idea of greater access to education. So they really came and left and packed Mississippi with the idea of pursuing what we all know as the California dream, that in many ways was birthed from the California Master Plan, that every citizen in California would have access to higher education. So it was amazing now how the full loop of that happened, that I'm here now being a champion, provide access to maintain that California dream and promise. So how does this inform me now in this role that I said? And I think this was what's important to you. It's this idea of this approach, what I call it as non-egocentric, servant-driven leadership. Right. How to make this not about me. It's not about the position I hold. I said this in my interview. I said that I didn't have this strong desire to be president for the sake of having the title of being president. And in many ways, I feel it's a calling and an assignment based on my upbringing to do this type of work. And so with that, I believe in the transformational power of education. I want to talk a little bit more about this idea of transparency and trust, but I have a deep commitment to social justice and student equity, and you're going to hear that thing resonate as long as I'm here. This idea of social justice and equity. Have a high tolerance for risk, that I believe that only way that we can grow is by taking risk. We have a very good institution at CRC. You should be extremely proud of the work that you have done. But if we want to move to the next, but also sometimes being good equals being complacent. So I want us to be able to raise our risk tolerance a bit, to be able to move from being good and transform from being great. And I try to challenge myself in that way also. But then also this willingness to challenge the status quo. That if things are not currently working, I have something in me to say, hey, I don't know how we're going to do it, but let's make a decision about what we're doing is not in the best interest of our students. Okay. So let's talk about family values. One of the things I did is, of course, when you come on, you try to talk to as many people as possible. And I really began to make a connection between my family values and what's rooting me and the significance of family. And I began to hear that same terminology when I began to talk to people about how they felt about CRC. Now I know CRC has its own value statement that exists in the catalog, and it's pretty and it's great language. I love it. But this is what I picked up from when I talked to people. This is coming from organic conversations, right? And so the CRC family values, what informs what we do, is this idea, what I picked up, a spirit of institutional service, civility, respect, diversity and inclusion, right? Personalized communication. We talked about a time in which you were able to just go into the cafeteria or the library and meet people from other departments, right? And now there's fear because of, emails and the growth of the college that we are losing something as a result of that, right? So how can we maintain our values that makes us who we are despite how we grow? But this is what informs us our values. I think, see Shannon look at me. I haven't looked at my watch. I mean, my time is. I see you over there. I got good peripherals. Get through. All right. So evolution of CRC. So who we are informs what we do, which what? Determines what? Determines where we're going. Let me get through this as quickly, hopefully. All right, so I asked, the reason why I was working with our data team so long is because I wanted them to be able to create a profile or snapshot of our students. So what we did is looked at our students over a 4-year period. So we started in the fall of 2011. So in the fall of 2011, we had roughly 2,500 first-time freshmen start at CRC. Of those, 1,700 students, roughly, 1,771, took our placement test in either English or math. Of those, 1,000 of those students, 1,012 of those students either assessed at transferable level in English or math. Now, some of these students may have placed at the developmental level in one or the other, but we call the students who are coming in for the sake of this slide transfer level or transfer ready to tell this story if you placed into one of those areas at college level. So the students who would have either took the assessment test in English and math or took either only English and math and placed at the developmental level is this number in orange here, which is 759 students. So let's see how these two sets of students did. So this is the 4-year success rates. So students who came in with just being at college level, either both or even just one of those subjects, had a 71% success rate. While students who come in requiring remediation only had a 42%, 43% success rate. Course success rate. So we see what here? So 60%, it was 42% of the population, 60% success rate. So we see college preparation here matters. that students are coming in at college level, even when we stretch that out over 4 years, are doing better than students who are not coming in at college level.